Hello, this is Aaron DeBruin, Vinyl Freak 89 here to give you yet another update on the latest Zero-Z GFS and our situation for the March 5th, 2008 winter storm. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on this evening. This is the current Rock Valid 3Z, and what's going to go on with this system sitting in right here is very key over the next 24 hours, depending on its eventual track, whether it comes down in here and then eventually moves up on the east side of the trough, or if it sits and stays connected to the main system coming across the United States, is going to have a big impact on whether or not this system is going to affect the East Coast with a snowstorm. Right now, it looks as though that this system will stay separate and go basically take a track, something like this, up on the eastern side of the trough, and we will end up probably with a low pressure area taking a track into this region in here. So this is a change a little bit from the models which had forecasted this system to sort of, remember we saw it in the Baja this morning, they were forecasting it to come in here and then pretty much cut straight up. Now the latest GFS and NAM both take this system, bring it down just into southwest Texas, and bring it a little bit further east of where it was originally forecast. So we need to watch to see if that trend continues. We can see our Arctic jet disturbance going by here to the north, and already starting to get out of the picture, but a second one coming behind which will dig into this main system here and is a concern for possibly trying to keep this thing phased a little longer, as we've seen on the Zero-Z GFS this evening. Now, to explain why this system may in fact not go up on the east side of the trough, but may try to stay connected a little bit more with our main Pacific system, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the 300 millibar chart, valid again at 3Z this evening. So once we take a look at that chart here, you can see a strong 110 knot jet on the western side of this trough digging into the system, and what that's going to allow you to do is it forces the system to try to dig into, here's the impulse sitting right in here. It's going to force the system to try to dig in and phase with it rather than letting this piece getting ejected straight out front. You can see there's very weak jet energy out in front of this system, which doesn't give it a good cause to lift out. So that's why the models now indicate that it's going to sort of stick around for a little while before it does lift out on the eastern side of the system. Again, you can see the bit of jet energy sitting in here, which is what's causing this system, the first Arctic system, to sort of get out of the way with our trough coming by. So let's go ahead and take a look back at the earlier run of the GFS, the 12Z run, and how it was interpreting the system. We're continuing to see this trend of wanting to back the trough up, although it's not as strong now. Again, you can see there was a jet in here. It's been weaker. It's been further south than we've seen during most runs. You can see a little bit of jet energy sticking its way out in here, which is why this system tries to cut off and eventually move up something like this on the 12Z run. But again, much more of a negative tilt to the trough, or I'm sorry, a positive tilt to the trough sitting in here, with a little bit of a neutral axis sitting right on the northern side. But overall, things are looking a lot different than they were a couple days ago. Again, strong jet coming on the western side of the trough, which is why this thing eventually does cut off. But if we look at this evening's GFS, you can see things have definitely backed up. Going back to 12Z for a second, again, the basic trough axis has not changed. It's still over Colorado. The axis runs pretty much from northeast North Dakota down through Nebraska, Colorado, and down into Arizona. Taking a look at our new GFS, we can see that that's backed up a little bit into central North Dakota, again northeast Nebraska, sort of northeast eastern Colorado, and then back down into central Arizona. So we've gone from about here to about in here, the second region that I've highlighted. So definitely something that we'll need to keep our eye on to see if this trend continues. We're only 30 hours away from this forecast validating, so we don't have much time. But taking a look at the new GFS, we can see a few things. Number one, much weaker jet sitting up here on the north side of this system. only a small area of 135 knot winds, but a general, or I'm sorry, 120 knot winds, but a general area of 105 knot winds, which is very different from what we saw on the earlier 12Z GFS. So you could see this large area of 135 knot winds, or I'm sorry, 120 knot winds with even a small area of 135 knot winds. And what's that going to allow to do? You can see again, there's certainly no negative or neutral tilt left at all with this system. Certainly a very positively tilted system, and our first piece of energy is way out in front. So that's why we're seeing the further east track. That's also why we're seeing the weaker low pressure system with this, or I'm sorry, the weaker cutoff low with this stronger jet energy that's coming in on the back side of the trough. What we're seeing is this northern feature want to stay phased in a little bit longer with the trough, and what you end up with is a weaker, a more broad cutoff low that wants to extend its way up into the main trough axis. So you get a configuration that looks something like that. So what that does for the eventual low track is it takes it from Louisiana pretty much up through into West Virginia, and then it takes it off the main coast rather than the earlier track we had been seeing, which is up through Pennsylvania. So this has big implications for snow lovers, maybe in extreme upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and western Maine. And certainly a situation of freezing rain and sleet a little bit further east in this area, right in here, based on the current 0Z GFS. I do not believe currently, based on what we're seeing, that we are going to see this southern branch feature completely stay phased with the original system. So I do not think any longer that we're seeing a snowstorm threat for the East Coast, for the I-95 cities. But if this trend continues, we certainly could be seeing an interesting situation up into the Appalachian Mountains and even into parts of upstate New York, the Binghamton Area State College. This is sort of my prime threat zone, where I think that it's possible that if this trend continues that we could see some pretty heavy snowfall. So that's pretty much all I have for you this evening. I'm going to update you again at 12Z tomorrow morning on the situation, and we'll see if this trend's continuing or if maybe we have to make some adjustments to the forecast. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good night, folks.